Hello, Scott here, and welcome to another episode of A Poll from the Shelf. This was originally supposed to be yet another completely unprofessional unboxing, but once I got this, I couldn't wait to take a look at it. So rather than do an unboxing, we'll take what I consider to be a little bit of a deep dive into this beauty right here and see what's inside of it. So what is this, you might ask, if it's not already obvious? Well, this is one of the fantastic paintings of Frazetta by J. David Spurlock. It highlights a lot of the wonderful paintings of one Frank Frazetta, who is well known as the Godfather of Fantasy Art. And I can't think of too many people who absolutely epitomizes sword and sorcery prior to the wonderful amount of artists that came from the inception of Dungeons and Dragons when it came out. But this right here was the inspiration. His paintings, the things that he did, and just a wonderful variety and portfolio that this man has right here. And I'm very excited to take a look at what's inside and see what this provides. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. On the cover here, we have the uncompromisable. Oh God, what was it called? The Egyptian's daughter. I'm sure it'll tell me inside. But this was the famous painting that sold shortly below his death, I believe, for just over $5 million for the original painting. Unbelievable, but spectacular. But we'll take a look at it more in detail once it comes inside the book. So let's go ahead and see if I can position this. So I'll start off by providing just a tad of an apology on this. So this book is high gloss paper throughout, and I do not have good lighting, so there might be a bit of glare on here. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time if there's any sort of reflections. I will do my best to flatten out the images the best that I can. When I open the book to see to try to remove some of the glare that I'm sure is going to show through. So right on the opening inside cover, fantastic paintings of Frazetta. We have one of his pieces here from 1975. Frank Frazetta was a fantastic student of the muscular form of both the human body and also of animals, and just they leap from the pages, in my opinion. There's few that just evoke this wonderful imagery of movement and design, and even in things that are completely standing still, such as this piece right here from 1975 of this woman sitting astride this horse. Even though nothing is moving, you can tell that the wind is blowing, as it's blowing, the horse's mane, and this woman's, long mane of hair, upwards. You can almost imagine her standing atop a mountain and the wind just blowing up towards her and the horse. So we have the secondary inside cover. Here's another wonderful piece here. This one is not labeled, but I'm sure this is probably, to me, I would guess this, just looking at it, is either going to be Conan or Tarzan, one of the many covers that he did paintings for throughout his career. And we have the table of contents here, so a few words about Frazetta, the fantastic art of Frank Frazetta as we continue on, and then the gallery of paintings, which is what I want to get into right away. So starting off, we have a few words from Michael Whelan. Michael Whelan, famous for many things within the painters of the fantasy world. Right here is his wonderful piece of Stormbringer, of Elric of Melniboné, which has been reproduced and reutilized in several different things. I mean, obviously the cover of Stormbringer, but also I believe this was the cover of an album. I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but just off the bat, you can, I'm sure within the words here, Michael Whelan will state that Frank Frazetta was a large influence upon him. So I'm just going to read his words here briefly. My first encounter with Frazetta artwork was the same year I saw my first tornado. This sticks in my mind because I regard them both as forces of nature, arresting and wonderful occurrences quickly engraved in my memory. I'm extremely fortunate to have been at a young and impressionable age when his work became part of our popular culture. Every so often, there are watershed artistic experiences that seem to come at just the right time, which occurs if people have been waiting for them without knowing it. Hearing the Beatles or Jimi Hendrix felt that way, making me think this is just the music I've been waiting for. So it was when Franzetta's artwork erupted into the world. It was art we had been wanting to see without knowing it, realized by one of the singular talents of our time, Michael Whelan. So going in, we have another introduction by J. David Spurlock. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but just want to highlight as we go across some of his pieces, what these are. So this one right here on the opposite end, and just making sure the glare is okay. It seems to be doing all right. We have the mammoth. We have a man here who is rearing up with a spear to hold his own against this monstrosity of an elephant, the mammoth charging forward. Continuing on, it's going to go on to describe some of his influences and the people that he associated with throughout the years, one of which, of course, was Arnold Schwarzenegger, was an influence on Arnold's look and how he held himself for the movie Conan the Barbarian. And I believe, how old was he at that time? Was he 75 years old? I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so carrying on, we have an ink drawing here. The Caveman, originally deemed too violent for comics. Famous Funnies, Buck Rogers' artwork was later revised for Weird Science Fantasy number 29 cover, 1954. The Frazetta family sold this piece in June 2010 to Jim Halperin for $380,000, a record sale at that time for comic work. Unbelievable. So we have someone here. We have the, obviously, the caveman or Neanderthal type creatures who are coming out to fight off the incursion of whoever this is right here. He seems to not belong. not these caveman type creatures. And then, there's no shortage of, Frazetta pieces highlighting his works. This, goes to highlight another one here. One of the comic books that he was involved in, Cindy is Saved, Heroic Comics number 94 from 1954. And it is often said that that horses are one of the hardest creatures to draw for a lot of people. But it seems like that he just had this natural ability to just, draw these creatures, these horses. You'll see several pieces of some of his models on horseback and whatnot, and just the musculature of the horses, along with with the people that he painted and drew. It's just astounding. And I don't. This may be hearsay, but it just seemed to be no effort for him to do that. So continuing onward, we have Ape Man, cover and interior to Tarzan and the Castaways, pen and ink, 1965. Just wonderful. Obviously, it looks like he's escaping. He's got this look in his eyes, not almost fear, as he's running away with whoever this princess is. I would imagine it is a princess, as he's bounding away from whatever these ruins are behind him into the jungle. And then carrying on over here, we have another piece, the Stone Age, pen and ink, 1962. Cover and front is to Tarzan at the Earth's core. So no Tarzan in the piece here, but you see a mammoth fighting off saber-toothed tigers. And you can hear, the snarling and the sound, and just the quaking of the earth, as this mammoth fights off these vicious creatures, and just the sounds as they're being thrown about. Survival of the fittest. So we have a picture here of let's see, Conan movie co-producer Edward Summer and his friend George Lucas to meet Frank Frazetta. And it states here that Lucas told Frank that his famous funny covers were an influence on Star Wars, specifically 213 on Chewbacca and 214 on the Death Star. So his influence went beyond, just the canvas and the comic books that he drew and painted for, but had influence on a lot of the popular movies and popular culture of our time, as we well know. For those of us who enjoy fantasy role playing games, most of us are well aware of Franzetta's influence. So we're going into the covers of some of the books that he did. What we have here is Child of the Sun. This is titled Roman Chariot. It's oil on masonite, 1972. And this sold for $495,000 in October 2019. Just a wonderful piece. Just checking that glare there. Again, you can just the sights and the smells. It just comes off the page. You're there. You're there. It just this whole scene. You can hear the sound of the wooden wheels spinning. The shouts of the people, the smell of the horses in the arena that they're in. Excuse me, I'm a little dry today. Let me just get something to drink. That's better. All right, following up, we have Atlantis watercolor. This was the preliminary done. And then you'll see the following piece, Atlantis #1. Looks like he did this a few times. This is oil on canvas. What does it say here? This was an almost finished piece. My grandfather realized he didn't have enough room to do the reflection in the water, so he had to repaint it. Oh, so luckily my father gave him a new canvas, so he didn't paint over this original version. This is really the best example of work in progress and has some real charm of its own. Absolutely. I'd have to agree with that. So it seems to depict the beginning of the destruction of Atlantis, as the volcano is erupting in the background. And this was for Atlantis Rising by Brad Steiger. And then we have Atlantis 2, Oil on Academy board. So you can really see the progression here. Fantastic. So Ray Bradbury's Autumn People, or The Autumn People, I should say. We have Stranded, oil illustration board, 1966. Also as to the cover of Tomorrow Midnight. So repurposed. And Adventures into the Unknown. Yeah. I mean, at least you have friends. If you have to be stuck on some foreign planet, far from home in the far reaches of space, it's always good to have 3 cyclopean aliens there to keep you company. Following this, we have Spider-Man, oil on Academy board, 1966, first printed as the cover to Night Walk by Bob Shaw. When we offered Spider-Man as a poster, people went ape. They loved it. And I started getting letters from people asking about the green squirrel. What was it? What did it mean? Was it an alien? They were reading all sorts of things in the patch of green. I didn't have the heart to tell them that I just thought the painting needed a little green for interest. I wasn't trying to create a mystery. Yeah, so Frank Frazetta was well known for the covers that he did. A lot of the pulp fantasy books and the Conan books. It was never based on any material within the story. It never really reflected anything inside. So what you saw happening on some of the covers never occurred in the book. He just painted how he felt, and how he wanted to, show what he felt was fitting for the cover. And as stated here, nothing special. He just felt it needed more green. Carrying on, we have Green Death, #1. First printed as the cover to Wolf's Head, 1967. Yeah, so we see far in the distance either someone wearing a skull mask or a skeletal form. We have a female form laid out. Don't know if she's wounded or passed out, and we have a man fighting for his life with this serpent, along with a green razor behind there and some sort of creature that looks fairly familiar to one of the famous covers for Dungeons and Dragons. And then we have the continuing work here. So again, you can see some of the transition. So with this one, obviously she is up and aware rather than laying down. And it seems the depiction of the whoever the sorcerer or wizard is in the distance, changes. Here it looks like he's controlling the serpent, and this one is a little bit more, you know, um, hidden behind smoke or dust or just the shadows. Kind of like this one better. It just kind of blends better in the background. He doesn't stand out as much and just seems more mysterious. Even though this one here seems a bit more menacing. All right, carrying on, we're going into the Edgar Rice Burroughs stories. So we have the Mammoth here. Oil on canvas panel, 1972, first printed as the cover to Back to the Stone Age. So despite the massive qualities of the creature and figure, most of this painting has been executed in thin washes, almost pastel-like in handling. Wow. So yeah, so that was on the inner cover. So you can see it here in more detail. And then here's one of the more well-known and famous ones. A Fighting Man of Mars, oil on Masonite, 1973. First published on the cover to A Fighting Man of Mars. So yeah, so we have John Carter of Mars. Yeah, this one just says so much about. I mean, if you've read the books, this right here kind of encapsulates everything that that you're going to experience when you read the John Carter of Mars books. Then next up, we have Catgirl, the original version, oil on Academy Board, 1967. First printed as the cover to Creepy, number 16. So we have some preliminaries here on the side. You can see, just dramatic changes. The poses, the the actual Catgirl within there just seems to just change dramatically through the alliterations until we get to the final piece. And continuing on, third post publication alliteration, fourth. Amazing. That would be something to have. Obviously, can't afford it, but to have the several different alliterations of these, just up on your wall. And again, your focus is here on the center of the cat girl in question. As she's one being somewhat inviting, but two just exuding this danger. Don't be fooled by the fact that she's not wearing anything, as in the background, ready to protect her or watch her take you down, are several of her cat cohorts in the back. All right, another famous one here from the cover of Nazareth. And also looks like for Eerie Magazine, The Brain. Oil on Academy Board, 1966. First printed as a cover to Eerie in 1967. All right, next up we have Brack. Not familiar with Brack the Barbarian myself, but by John Jakes, but I'm sure many people are. Obviously, something wouldn't mind reading about if possible. John Jakes is one of America's most distinguished writers of historical fiction. Jakes' commitment to historical accuracy and evocative storytelling earned him the title of the Godfather of historical novelists. So we've got a couple Godfathers here. From the Los Angeles Times, and led to a streak of 16 consecutive New York Times bestsellers. Well, I guess that's worth checking out then. But since his start as early as the 1950s, Jakes was drawn to writing science fiction and fantasy. Okay. He was a member of Swordsmen and Sorcerers Guild of America, a loose-knit group of historic fantasy authors founded in the 1960s and led by one Lynn Carter. They sought to promote the popularity and respectability of sword and sorcery, subgenre including Brack the Barbarian, stories by Jakes. Jakes gained widespread popularity with the publication of his 1970s Kent Family Chronicles series, which sold 55 million copies. His North and South trilogy about the U.S. Civil War sold 10 million copies and was adapted as an ABC miniseries. All right, so The Apparition, first printed on the cover to Brack the Barbarian versus the Sorceress, 1969. Again, horses, cats, they play a reoccurring role. Okay. Probably one of the most well-known ones, I would imagine. I mean, the one that has been repurposed many, many times, as stated here, and you'll see, and it continues to be repurposed and also emulated. This is one of the ones where it has been, done and redone by other artists as they, copy the aspects of the Death Dealer, and as it's used here, for Starlog, heavy metal, and his own works as he highlights them. Flashing Swords #2, edited by Lynn Carter. Death Dealer, probably one of the most famous ones. Oil on Academy Board, 1973, first printed as a cover to Flashing Swords #2. Frazetta created one of the most famous characters, the Death Dealer, loosely inspired by a scene in a short story by Fritz Leiber, contained in the Flashing Swords anthology, on which the original painting first appeared as a cover, and wherein Fafhrd and Grey Mouser are about to confront and defy death. And again, Stardate magazine, Jesus Christ. Locus, and we have a statuette here and a close-up of the detail. So next up, we have Woman with a Scythe, Oil on Masonite, 1969. First printed as a cover to Vampirella, #11. So the preliminary changed dramatically. Originally, look here, you either had a skull mask or a skull head. Continuing on, another one of his most famous pieces, Chained, or Conan Chained, as I heard others call it, but originally was for the cover of Conan the Usurper, 1967. Preliminary sketch here, which was a 4-inch by 4.75-inch. I mean, pretty much the same size as this right here. That is insane. You can easily make jokes about this cover, but you can't really dismiss it if only for the expression of power in the back and arms of the main character, who, contrary to common practice in composition, has his back turned to the viewer. I suppose readers would have known Conan well enough by then that they just didn't care that they couldn't see his face. Absolutely, I would agree with that. This particular piece says so much. So much is going on in here. And to be perfectly honest, you don't need to see his face. You know what his face looks like. Facing these demons and these monsters and this serpent. You know what's going on with his face. You don't need to see it. And then here we have the famous Egyptian queen. There we go. Very few people ever get what's going on with Franzetta's Egyptian queen. With the Egyptian queen painting, both in the scene and with Franzetta's post-publication revision to the queen's face. The original version told the story. That is the job of illustration. The revision is a prettier picture, Frank's idea of fine art. The revision is more attractive, but it actually lost the storytelling. The original story point intent is horror. The deadly man and queen eating wildcat had just broken its chain, and the Egyptian queen was the nearest, most appetizing dinner. The illustration served its rightful purpose as a horror magazine cover, but upon return of the original to the artist, Frank's interest now became to have the most beautiful image possible to adorn a wall, eventually a museum wall. And yes, this is the one that is, I believe, 2019, sold for over $5 million. $5 million. And this also would be, I believe, would be one of the influences for George Lucas's outfit for Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi. So we have the original preliminary, the original painting for Eerie, and then the slightly revised oil here. And yeah, I have to agree, it does kind of change things a bit. Just her general look and demeanor, although no less fantastic. Equally fantastic, but yeah, some of the story does change a bit. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I never forget the Egyptian queen. I got that whole painting down in about a day and a half. Then I looked at her face and didn't like it, so I started to repaint the face, and I painted the face, and I painted it again, and I painted it again. Well, it was like 3 days trying to get the right face. I suddenly got sort of blinded to it. I couldn't see anymore. I just looked at it and didn't know where I was anymore. So I finally just settled for any face and brought it in, and they painted it that way, and then I forgot about it. So a couple months later, I get it back. Now it was fresh again, and I just looked at it and pow! I whacked in the face you see in all the prints. When I got it back, looked at it fresh, her face was painted in 5 minutes. And yes, I mean you can comparison here. You can definitely see the influence. The Princess Leia bikini was inspired in part by the work of Frank Frazetta. Frazetta's framing of the female form was done out of love and respect for it. If you look at his works, you can see distinct attention to detail when drawing all human bodies, especially when it came to naked or exposed muscles. Absolutely. His science fiction and fantasy artwork, along with his use of metal clothing, also has some clear inspirations on the costume. See, Egyptian Queen sold for $5.4 million in 2019. Carrying on, okay, Queen Kong. Still the stunning piece, still fantastic. A bit of a silly one here. I mean, obviously, if you're an artist, it's not all work. It's got to be some play, and sometimes you just want to do something different and have fun sometimes. So Queen Kong, originally produced in the early 1970s, for and based on a concept by Frazetta's friend Wally Wood, as proposed mature comics magazine cover, sometimes referred to as POW. Yeah, POW, wow. To be released by Warren Publishing. Wood dropped the project when the first paycheck failed to arrive. The piece ultimately saw print as the cover to Eerie 81, released toward the end of 1976 with a cover date of February 1977. When Warren failed to return the original art to Frazetta, it marked the end of the artist's relationship with the publisher. All right, here we are. The Man of the Hour. Another one of probably, next to Death Dealer, probably maybe his most famous one in my opinion. I could be wrong. It's just an opinion, but we have The Barbarian from Conan the Adventurer, 1966. Oil on canvas, late 1965, early 1966. Preliminary sketch here, 4 by 25 inches by 7 inches, and graphite and colored pencils. Previously unpublished. So this was previously unpublished. Fantastic. So yes, we have the classic pose here. What is best in life? Whoops, carrying on. Conan was a vehicle by which Frazetta could unleash his own most savage essence. When his first Conan painting appeared on the cover to Conan the Adventurer in 1966, the world had never seen anything like it. Not even from Frazetta. I keep saying Frazetta. So obviously you've been yelling at me this whole time. It's not Frazetta. And then what we have here, Wild Ride, oil on canvas, 1985. Again, you can hear the galloping of the horses' hooves on the sand. You can smell the ocean air in this piece and just hear the crashing of the waves. And also, considering she's not wearing anything, but considering I've been to beaches that look like this, there's a bit of chill in the air. You can definitely feel it. So we have The Mucker, oil on Academy Board, 1975, first printed as a cover to The Mucker. It's a rare image that was in none of the 1970s Frazetta art books and never released as a poster. It has been in a private collection all these years. So, The Mucker by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Blazing Combat, Illustrated Frontline Magazine, oil on Academy Board, 1966. Yeah, that one's kind of got a bit of a glare on it. Plus, it's the fold. That's a shame of some of these books is, you're going to lose, obviously, some of it for these larger images in the folds of the books. Another famous piece here. I painted Death Dealer and Silver Warrior back to back. I had been sitting on my laurels just going through the motions, and then there was a rumor that disturbed me that I was washed up, that I hadn't done anything major in years. They chopped me up for dinner. That's loyalty for you. It made me decide to show them the old spirit. I sat down. Death Dealer was born, then Silver Warrior. In some ways, better than anything I had ever done. 1972, oil on Masonite. Aha. Yep. There we go. Rollade's covered. I love the original versions of Conan the Buccaneer and was very distressed when Frank changed the basic concept. I have grown to really like the current version, and I realize why Frank wanted these changes. Frank said that he wanted to give Conan a fighting chance in battle and axes more firepower than bare hands, especially when all the other warriors are heavily armed. So here we have the Destroyer for Conan the Buccaneer, and yes, used for War of Darkness, World AIDS. And the 2010 Destroyer sold for 1.5 million. The Executioner, slightly modified. Oil on Masonite, 1965. Unlike most of Frazetta's paintings, the image was never issued by the artist as a poster in the 1970s or 80s. And here's another one. I'm familiar with. The Eternal Champion cover for the 1970. Yes, I was attracted to fantasy originally because it wasn't a defined genre like rock and roll. You can make something of your own out of it. I have this book somewhere. It's a horrible shape, but still, the cover holds up, which is the important part. Continuing on, we have another rendition of the Eternal Champion, revised, oil on Masonite, 1994. Luana. On April 15th, 1960, a plane crashed in the untamed African jungle. The survivor, a young girl, Luana. A movie poster, 1973. Savage Pellucidar. Oil on Academy Board, 1973. First published as a Luana B-sheet movie poster and was cut down and revised to become Savage Pellucidar. Frazetta had nothing to do with the censoring of the poster. Well, yeah, I would think not. Uncle Creepy. Creepy Fan Club print as first advertised in Creepy number 5. Warren, 1965. Hello. And then we have some Tarzan pieces here. Tarzan and the Jewels of Opar, 1963. Movie poster, I believe. The Night They Raided Minsky's, watercolor, 1968. Uncensored painting intended for the movie poster, first published in 1965. Horror fantasy issue. And then we have the album for the Molly Hatchet, or the cover, sorry, for the Molly Hatchet album, and also looks like Conan the Conqueror. Berserker, oil on Academy Board, 1967. In 2009, the painting sold for $1 million. The record sell during the artist's life was to Kirk Hammett, lead guitarist for Metallica. Well, yeah. They told me about Howard's barbarian character. I sped through the first few chapters to visualize his character. I didn't seriously read any of it. I went right ahead and developed this character that barely resembled Howard's description. Quite a different guy. It was what I thought a barbarian should look like. The ultimate barbarian. His description was quite different. He was leaner with tousled hair and hawkish features. I instead saw a bruised, battered, scarred monster of a guy. That's the way I felt a guy should look at this point. Once again, it's all personal. Tarzan piece, Beasts of Tarzan, 1964. For the Beasts of Tarzan. Different look and appeal with this one. Still fantastic, but it's just a little bit of a different sense, different style. Dina, first printed as interiors to Elements number 3 in a story by Dick Dalton. Pale shafts of afternoon sunlight filter through the windows of the administrator's office. Behind the desk, a not unattractive woman with finely sculpted features, dark hair, and large, deep-set eyes rose to greet me. She wore the familiar seamless white coverlet common to most of the personnel I'd observed at the clinic. Yeah, nice. Well, I would say that describes the whole thing right there. Wonderful piece. Wonderful piece. What do you have here? Young World, revised. Oil canvas, 1981. First printed as a wraparound cover to Monster Mania, number 2. El Sprague de Camp book, Ponytail, oil on Academy Board, 1967. First printed as a cover to Tritonian Ring. El Sprague de Camp was a popular writer of science fiction and fantasy. He also edited and placed Howard's Conan stories in both the Gnome Press hardbacks and the Lancer paperback series. DeCamp managed Conan for many years. In DeCamp's autobiography, Time and Chance, he commented on how different Frazetta's Conan was from Howard's. Conan the Adventurer had a cover by Frank Frazetta, who painted covers for most of the Lancer Conans. Frazetta's work was superior to that of most illustrators, but he gave Conan something I have objected to ever since. Robert Howard described Conan's hair as a square-cut black mane, implying a Prince Valiant bob, but Frazetta gave Conan hair down to his solar plexus. A long-haired Conan has been ever since. While DeCamp may have objected to Frazetta's rendering his own barbarian instead of Howard's, the audience loved it, and as DeCamp said, long-haired Conan has been ever since. So ponytail, yes, she has a long tail coming off her back. Winged Terror, Oil on Academy, 1965. Terror in the Dark Kingdom. Where are we going on here? About 35 minutes. I'm sure this has been wonderful. I'm enjoying myself. I don't know about you, whoever's following along, but I do appreciate it if you've come this far. Indomitable, Oil on Academy, 1967. First print as a cover to Conan the Warrior. And then we have an afterword by Frank Frazetta Jr. We won't go into too many details on that. For those who are aware, there was a bit of an issue with Junior and the Frazetta Foundation and whatnot. So we won't bore you with the details on that. You can look that up yourself. Oh, we have a piece here, Frodo Confronting a Warg, pen on ink, 1975. So yeah, I'm sure it's not going to cover all of his works here, but that would be something. I do not know if he had done more work for Tolkien, but that would definitely be a thing to check out. And then we have just the last piece. Yes, the last piece here. The Rescue, pen and ink, 1973. Interior illustration for A Fighting Man of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. So more John Carter. In closing, we have more of his books. Definitely well worth checking out. And then there we are. We have the back cover, same as the front. The back inner cover, and along with the books on his back, the books on the back with quotes by Michael Whalen, John Milius, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jason Momoa. I will not read those. And then we'll pull this back up with the Egyptian Queen. $5.4 million. Amazing. So there you go. That has been I guess I'll consider it a special pull from the shelf. As stated, this was supposed to be an unboxing, but, c'est la vie. Those are things go. It's my channel. I can do whatever the F I want. So thank you all for joining along. I do appreciate it. I hope this wasn't a bit of a dull one here. It's not gaming, but still is definitely an influential part of the gaming world, in not just its presentation of sword and sorcery, but also the influence on those who ended up creating many of the games and the artists who provide us with the imaginations of those involved. So if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe if you feel up to it. I'd appreciate it. No big deal if you don't. And also check me out on Titterpigs, the tabletop role-playing game podcast with Keith from Rolling Boxcars. There'll be a link down in the description. And there you go. We'll be coming back next with some more unboxings and maybe coming up with a couple small, short little interviews as I see if I might be able to get some other people on to this channel and have a little chat about gaming or anything else that comes up and see how it goes. So once again, my name is Scott. I appreciate your time. And until next time, have a wonderful day.